Well, hey there, HVAC pros and enthusiasts. Are you ready to take your skills to the next level? The HVACR Learning Network has just launched an exciting new e-learning course, High Performance Heat Pumps. And guess what? We're giving you free access to the first 2 chapters. Whether you're in the field, training for that next step, or simply want to sharpen your expertise, this course is packed with everything you need to understand and master high-performance heat pump systems, especially inverter-driven cold climate heat pumps. And the best part? You can access it anytime, anywhere, right from your favorite mobile device. It's HVACR learning made flexible and convenient for you. So what are you waiting for? Click the link. Dive into the HVACR Learning Network and start your free trial today. Your journey to HVACR mastery begins here.
At Service Logic, we believe the future of the skilled trades lies in training and development. And that's why we created the Edge, a platform dedicated to empowering our greatest assets, our people. From hands-on training to leadership development, Edge is where technicians grow their skills, expand their opportunities, and build lasting careers. Because when people succeed, our companies, our customers, and our industry thrive. This is the Edge. This is the future of the skilled trades.
I chose iConnect training equipment because I already previously had some iConnect training equipment, and I was very pleased with the equipment I had, the quality of it, and pre-designed labs that came with it. So when I expanded it more into their catalog, I decided I wanted to get this refrigeration trainer in my program to expand my program. My experience so far using the TU-155 has been a pretty good experience, especially my second year students, and the light bulb kind of syndrome goes off when you see that little flicker in their eye and they're, oh, I got it. That's what us instructors, what we look for is the I got it moment. And this helps me to the I got it moment with my students, and that's what's my goal to achieve.
We are Daikin, the #1 global indoor comfort provider. Our innovative home and building solutions are engineered with energy efficiency and sustainability at their core, ensuring improved indoor air quality for all. From heating and cooling to ventilation, air purification, refrigeration technologies, and connected devices, we're at the forefront of technology, addressing the pressing challenges of sustainability.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us once again on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. I actually just got back a couple hours ago. I spent about 6.5 hours driving back from the UA 449 over in Harmony, Pennsylvania. So any of our audience from the Pennsylvania, Ohio area, probably just passing you not too long ago. And wherever you're joining in from, let us know in the chat. We'd love to know, how large our community is growing. I'm back home here in Brownsburg, Indiana, but not for long. We actually had a accepted offer on a house, and we'll be putting ours on the market in the next few weeks. So I'll be moving down the road, about a half hour, 45 minutes or so southwest of here. Now, one of the things that was so relevant at the 449 was how their classrooms are changing. And remember, the UA 449 is an amazing training center. They focus on commercial, industrial, as well as residential HVAC and a lot of the hydronic side of it, a lot of the boilers, a lot of chillers. And what they were doing was they were doing a lot of retrofitting. Isn't it though, Howard? I had so much fun. I wish you were with us. I learned so much more about the UA this time than I ever had in the past. And yeah, it was it was a great experience. I'll have to fill you in on that. And I've got some really good videos. Hey, Harrisburg. All right. Yeah, I wasn't too far away from you. Paul joining us from South Jersey. Hey, Kendrick, what's going on, my friend? So, oh yeah, up in Chicago. Hey, what's the weather up there? It's like 71 or 2 here in Indiana. It's quite comfy and cozy. So what we realized was the 449 is already preparing for transitions in our industry. They have a lot of new A2L systems, so R32 and 454B in residential split systems, ductless systems, package units, but they're making transitions into a lot of hydronic applications. Remember, they're already doing training on hydronics that they've been working with in the commercial industrial for decades. But even residential and light commercial, we are seeing transitions. And I've been called crazy. I don't mind it. Thanks. Hey, Garrett, thanks for joining us. Hey, sorry I missed your event down at Ivy Tech. What was it? Bloomington was like last week. I was actually out on vacation, so I sincerely apologize for that. So what I get called crazy for is that even residential is going to be moving to hydronic operation, right? As we go down this HFC phase down, this 85% reduction of the manufacturing of all new HFCs by January 36, our next generation and probably our solution for long-term residential and like commercial AC is hydronic, residential heat pump chillers. And so I had the opportunity at AHR this year to spend some time with our good friends from Watts. And guys, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the community?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Clifton. David Benaiges here. I lead the digital team and the digital strategy here at Watts. So lots to talk today about, digitizing our water infrastructure. So excited for it.
Managing it.
Managing it. Yeah, visibility, right? How do we get to know what's going on there? So yeah, excited for it.
Yeah. Thanks, Clifton. My name's Douglas Delange. I am a product manager with Tekmar. We are a brand under the Watts umbrella that focus on residential and small commercial hydronic controls. So I'm an electronics product manager. Been about 3 years in hydronics, former life in building construction, global industry. So
Awesome.
Looking forward to chatting with you. I know we did talk at HR quite a bit. So
yeah, and that's what really got me intrigued. I hadn't been focusing on all of the innovations that's happening in the water control and management side, and it was absolutely fascinating and so timely after coming back from the 449 and seeing it in action, like seeing automated controls getting brought into their building management systems. And reefer mechanic, yeah, hey, I'm glad you're joining us again, man. I really appreciate you hanging in here because you've got a great perspective that not everyone in the industry has. I believe that you are correct. Like our next generation of residential systems are going to be monoblock heat pump chillers, right? That it's going to have fluid control. We're not going to have refrigerant lines, and we're going to have either CO2 as the refrigerant for the outdoor unit, or we're going to have a R290 or 600A. So that's our long-term low GWP solutions. So right now, when we look at how hydronics are changing in the industry, there is so much going on that I hadn't even really thought about. But as we have these conversations, it's important to think about energy use in general. I mean, we spend so much time talking about energy management, whether it is electrical energy, whether it is our fuel energy, whether it is our water. And as we continue, especially developing high efficiency buildings like data centers that use Mongo amounts of fluid control, everything is changing. And so let's spend a little bit of time today talking about hydronics, where we are today, maybe even where we were, but talk about where we're going so that all of our schools, all of our contractors that are joining us can see that we're in a quickly evolving landscape, whatever aspect of the industry you're involved in.
Should we get started?
I think we should.
Let's do it. And by the way, I don't see the controls on the slides. I don't know, Douglas, if you see them or
hover over the top of it. It should be at the top. And let me double check, make sure I got controls for everybody. Oh, there's where. That was my fault. I'm so sorry about that.
There we go. No, I can't.
All right, got it now. Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, great to see everyone. I love this platform. Love hearing from everyone. What are you thinking? Are we triggering any thoughts, any questions? So please keep engaging us. We can keep this pretty lively. And we're excited to share all the stuff we're working on, how we see it come to life, the action that we see in the market, and the benefits that we see we're delivering to so many buildings and users out there. So with that, we'll get started. And Clifton was alluding to it already. Things have changed and are changing pretty quickly. At Watts, if I can step back for a minute, we think about the world of water, plumbing, water solutions, right? Hydronics is one part of that, but we've got a much broader spectrum here around water. And one thing, as I got to know this industry a lot better over the last few years, one of the questions is, how many of our building users are actively thinking about their water systems?
Right.
And while I'd love that answer to be a lot, everyone's thinking about water. The answer is nobody wants to think about water if they don't have to, right? They don't want to think about what's going on, what's not working until it hits, right? Until something goes wrong, and then users, tenants, whoever is in the building starts to get affected, right, by those things. And that's where we come in, and that's the big revelation we've had over the last 5-6 years. How can we flip that on its head? How can we proactively look at what's going on in those systems? You talked about CO2, energy efficiency, comfort in the building for users. How can we make that a proactive behavior the same way pretty much that other things have happened within the building, right? Think about IT, think about lighting, think about access control. Why would water be any different, right? And we don't want that to be different. It's a resource that's becoming scarcer, as we go. We want to make sure that it's top of mind for all of us and that we have the capability to properly manage it and get the value that we need out of it. And that is a very broad topic, right? We think about hydronics. We can talk about leak detection and leak protection in the building. How many of you in the audience have had a leak issue, whether in your home or in the building that you're in? What kind of damage, what kind of impact has that had, right? And how often did that go unnoticed until somebody raised their hand or something appeared somewhere, right? So we want to move towards this proactive management of the resource.
I just installed a hybrid heat pump water heater down at my cabin. And part of that is it came with water management. So it came with its own water detection sensor, as well as a valve to be able to isolate the water supply to the water heater. And so, even in that residential application, that's relatively new for us. And so part of having this conversation is helping people understand that it's changing in every aspect of our landscape, including these residential products.
It really is. And what used to be a, one size fits all solution now has become this sort of ecosystem of different, parts of the solution. Do you want to shut off the water automatically or do you not? Yeah. Do you want certain control items to be triggered automatically or do you not, right? So the key here is how do we come up with the right solutions and the right tools for those things to happen, right?
Makes sense.
That's what we're excited to talk about today. Obviously, all of this sits at the sort of crossroads of multiple trends that we're seeing in the market, right? We're seeing electrification driving a big change in behavior, a big change in the systems that get installed. That's why we're here today to talk about heat pumps. We're also seeing a big trend of users, whether you're a facilities manager or you are a homeowner or you are sort of a maintenance person that takes care of a bunch of sites. Everyone wants to have more visibility, more control, remotely if possible, right? You want to be able to go on vacation. You want to be able to know what's going on, what changed, and what needs to be done, right? So exactly. At the center, and then we have a lot of pressure on owners, on buildings, on continuing to drive efficiency and sustainability. So many of our customers come to us and we've put all these goals forward. We've said, to the outside world, all the things we want to achieve. Now we're in a bit of a pinch here to figure out what do we do to get there, right? So all of those things point in the same direction, and you see it very nicely represented here with this wonderful tekmar control on the bottom right that we're going to get to talk to about today, and the works with Nexa. How do we provide to existing systems as a retrofit, to newer systems if we want to? How do we provide a solution that sits on top and gives you all that visibility, control, and peace of mind? And how do we do that in a digital world that we live in today? People are navigating things through their phones. People want, accessibility. So how do we get to do all of that at the touch of your hands, right? So that's where we want to go with it. Here. And so, yeah, that points to what, and you'll keep seeing some pictures here. We're going to show you quite a bit about the solutions we've got. Here at the bottom right, you see our application. You get to see all the details, and Doug will walk us through some of these features. You get to see all the pictures of how your system is operating, what's in spec, what's out of spec, how do you control that system remotely. But we can go much further beyond that. So given the old mindset was, let's fix it when it breaks, we see a lot of these properties, a lot of these users now wanting to monitor, adjust things as they go. And that means everything from your existing water meter. You want to know how much water you're using on a live basis, or maybe pinpointing if you've got any leaks down the system, whether by measuring the presence of water, or you want to measure water usage down the pipes. Instead of installing new meters, you can do that by clamping on some of these fancy ultrasonic water meters around your pipes, right? So the name of the game here is versatility and modularity, and how we enable all of those use cases. With the Nexa platform that we're sharing with you all today, that's basically possible. All those things are possible in one single platform with one single interface. And the goal here is to give those operators in the building, those users in the building, maximum convenience, right? You want to see all those things together. You want to feel like you're in the 2020s of water, right? In the world of water, we want to activate that for all users and customers. So
it's amazing how much those three characteristics, the flow, that temperature and pressure, affect heat pump systems. When we start looking at the amount of runtime that a heat pump takes for recovery, that incoming water temperature is a huge factor on how long it takes for that heat pump to recoup its amount of temperature that we're looking for that output. So we're actually going to be releasing a book here real soon here at ESCO that is high performance electric water heaters, focused more so on the residential and on some of those monoblocks. But we actually dive into how does that incoming water temperature affect the amount of time that it takes for a heat pump to produce the water temperature that we're looking for. And so by monitoring and measuring all of this in real time, our system can actually, because most of these are variable capacity, we can actually control capacity based on what all of those parameters are.
Yeah, that's a great point, Clifton. Really running in heat pump control, it's allowing the temperature to be up and down, right? So
yeah,
you don't need as hot a water to do heating. You don't need as cold a water to do chilling. But you need to understand the temperature at different points in that system to be able to make the space comfortable, right? You're not going to be able to do that without all of these data points and that real-time control you have with the controls.
Yeah, you get places like New York that is really heavy on the electrification, degasification. We're moving into heat pump chillers for large residential complexes and commercial complexes that their only solution is using hydronic heat pumps. That's it.
We have, so our new heat pump control, we launched it in October, and traditionally we're a lot more residentially focused, bigger residential homes, mega mansions and such. But we are running a pilot in the Northeast right now with the utility company they have two, I don't know how big they're, giant heat pump chillers on the roof, the existing boiler plant, and then controlling the water loop that way. And that's a retrofit, right? They're using the existing piping from the boiler, they're adding cooling, and this cooling is becoming a lot more codified, right? I think New York City's looking at it potentially, making cooling required for all apartments, which is a massive. Right?
Yeah. But when we have a heat pump and we have all of the controls associated like this, it gives us that ability to do a retrofit system.
Absolutely. And these systems, are so sensitive and need to operate within certain boundaries. Having all that ability to monitor things in real time and adjust things as you go is really a huge benefit, right, to both efficiency and then to the users in the building. So it's the combination of those things, right? The new technology and then the ability to properly control it and monitor it remotely. So, and maybe just again to zoom out a little bit, we talked to a lot of our users in different buildings, whether it's multifamily, commercial, single family, residential. when you look at water, you typically start, by zooming into one specific area, right? Here, we're talking about controls of heat pumps in certain kinds of buildings. The likely story here is a lot of those buildings end up needing other kind of support in their water systems, and that's been a big learning for us. Water infrastructure is really unique to each kind of building, each kind of region in the country, and so we always end up talking about the three themes that you see here on the page. We can save, protect, or optimize or manage. On the save side, there is no better data point. We actually had a big webinar yesterday about this at Watts around measuring flow and understanding water usage. One thing is what you get from your utility, once a month, and the bill. That's usually very much backward looking, right, and reactive. We love the proactive nature of water usage monitoring and what that tells us about what's happening in the building. The second one is the protect area, leak protection, leak detection, a big topic across geographies, verticals, and you can get to it through many different technologies. I wonder if there's anyone in the audience, who's currently thinking about or executing or planning a leak protection project. It's something that we see more and more as a prevalent topic across the industry. And then optimization, it's kind of the area we're diving in today, right? You've got systems installed in your building. They all operate within some certain specs around temperature and pressure. How do we make sure we provide the right inputs on what those performances are, and how can we optimize them right as we go? Those three areas are really complementary to each other, and it is rare that we stop at just one of them in the buildings we work with. We typically look at a combination of those things, which is what we're excited to do as a Nexa solution, right, as a Nexa product as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking even just from the smaller application, we just bought a property for our daughters to move into for college, and just a little house. Spent the last week doing demolition on it and remodeling. It's on a full basement. And I look at an application, even something as small as a residential application like this. I'm not going to be in the home. It would really be ideal to be able to monitor any potential leaks in the basement of this, because I just finished replacing a whole bunch of floor joists, subfloor, and flooring in the bathroom and in the utility room because of water leaks from older repairs that were never done properly. But then at the same time, also being able to manage the cost of water, because the cost of water is starting to increase in many areas, and then actually have those analytics and go, okay, who's the one taking the 2.5 hour shower here versus the 45-minute shower?
Correct. And you're out for a trip or something, or it's your house in the woods or something.
Yes.
A lot of our customers want the ability to shut off that water automatically, right? Something is off. Something is wrong. I can't get there within a few, multiple hours. I might as well just go ahead and have the water turn off on its own. So we see that more and more. We have a phenomenal line of products here around leak protection with shut off that really solves that pain point as we go. So. Yeah, and so we talked about convenience and getting all these data points and all this information in one place. So the whole premise of Nexa and what we're doing with tekmar as well on the control side is to get all this data, all this overview in one single platform. You can see here an example on the right-hand side. This is our water usage dashboard. One feature that I really love is that one on the bottom left. It's that Sankey chart for the geeks that know charts. It's one of those fantastic charts that shows you how things are distributed, right? And it's a phenomenal way to see how water usage flows through the building. No pun intended, right? It gives you that quick view of, is anything disproportionate versus what I would expect? And it allows you to immediately benchmark that against, your historical data, which is really, really helpful.
Yeah, especially for a building manager, this is super critical information.
Yeah, because imagine, right, the main meter gives you that big blue chunk, and it gives your data once a month, looking back probably a couple of weeks, right, of historical data. Yeah. We are now able to tell you real-time data and how that breaks down across the property, upper floors, lower floors, basement, spa, kitchen area, right? You name it. You can deploy this as you want, just to get all that visibility and real-time alerts. That's a question we get a lot as well. Once I know all this information, can I be alerted only when certain things happen based on the history, based on the thresholds, right? So that's another big important point here as well for the heat pump controls, the ability to be alerted when it matters and how we can set that in a smart way that Douglas can probably talk a bit more about. But we can bring this down to minimal noise with maximum value, right? That's kind of the balance that we're trying to strike here.
Yeah, in those multifamily applications, that water use and manageability, it could save a whole lot of repair time. When we think about a multifamily that has a leak somewhere, right? If we can actually manage and understand where that's coming from before it becomes a critical incident,
Yeah.
that's very
No matter
important.
how you do the math, whether you're looking at insurance data, whether you're looking at, reparation data, whether you're looking at tenant occupancy and reputation, right, of your building, you name it. Leak protection is a topic that affects everyone from all different angles, right? So you want to get on it, and there are these are very cost efficient ways to tackle that topic.
Sure. And an important reason for us to have this conversation, Garrett, I completely get it. So many HVAC programs look at hydronics as, that's plumbers. That's not ours. We don't have to cover that. But that is changing very significantly. And when we look at, how our industry is going to change going forward, hydronics are going to be a significant part of HVAC. Todd, I'm glad you appreciate this, because in those multifamily applications, I've talked to a lot of manufacturers and engineers just in these last few months as to what is our solution for multifamily and for HVAC in particular. And every single one of them says, oh, we got to go hydronic. No matter what, we have to go hydronic. And so when we get to that point where our HVAC is becoming more hydronic and we are learning the technologies, we are teaching the technicians and students what to be looking for in these environments. Well, now we've got HVAC managed and we have all of our water managed because we're really working in the same environment.
Correct. There's economies of scale there to be had, right? Once you put those systems and understand them as a whole with the same tools to monitor and optimize, you can get a lot more value out of that. But it does require, to your point about education, and about curriculum, right? It does require understanding what those technologies are, and then making sure you're not overcomplicating things by trying to, select multiple providers and technologies for different systems. The simpler, the better, right? History tells us for users and buildings.
Especially when we're implementing software like this, where we're actually tracking and managing the products.
Yeah, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to go too complicated. You want, simplicity and visibility of everything you can get your hands on.
Yeah,
so,
I'm a simple kind of guy. This speaks to me.
Yeah. So, the question is why do hydronic system, require a lot better control? So it's not that it's now a new thing that they require a lot better control, right? It's always been the case. It's more shifting into the digital age with the ability to do that. So, in the past, for any type of control system, you would say, okay, let's set the boiler control, the reset control up. We configure it for the coldest day of the year, and that's it. So if you have one side of the building gets hotter because of solar gains or it's south facing, etc., this wasn't really considered, and you'd have some rooms way up here, some rooms way down here, but you kind of ran. You're not optimizing for efficiency. You're not doing anything like that. So once you get into the bigger buildings too, a building is dynamic. It's not static. The control system should be dynamic as well. You're going to have multiple loops serving different zones, different locals, different requirements. Introduction of cooling, as we mentioned before, especially in multifamily, is becoming a great way. We can do this with hydronics, as opposed to, some of the other options are mini splits, one per unit on the outside for just cooling. You still have the boiler system. Those systems can fight each other. There's nothing that integrates it all together. And like I said, it's a dynamic building. The demand is going to change, whether it's sometimes there's people in the building, sometimes there's more people in the building, there's less people. It's the spring, it's the summer, it's the winter. So I don't know. I'm sure everyone's been here to a conference where you're outside in like the foyer, there's windows everywhere, it's nice and warm and comfortable. You go in for a seminar and you have to put your jacket on because it's freezing in that room, right? But it's the same building. You walk 50 feet, right? Mm-hmm. It's hydronics, and control of hydronics really allows you to optimize the comfort of the tenant. It allows you to move heat from one part of the building to where it's needed, and take heat out of one part of the building where it needs to be cooler, put it somewhere else. This optimizes the efficiency of the building and reduces the energy. And the advanced controls are also optimizing the plants for this. and the chillers and the boilers and the heat pumps, reducing short cycling. They're optimizing the runtime. They're making sure you can cycle between equipment if you have multiple sources of heat or cooling, so you're not wearing one out 5 years earlier than the other one. So these advanced controls just allow you to have this level of control that can adapt with the dynamicy of a building, right? So in a modern time, we're having labor shortage. We're having less people to be able to do this. We want to be able to do this remotely, and these challenges require these advanced digital solutions that need to adapt as the building adapts and as the building moves throughout the day.
A lot of engineers are really struggling right now with how to design our multifamily buildings, in particularly going forward, looking at do we use a heat recovery VRV VRF, or do we look at hydronic? Because our VRV VRF are, they're really going to struggle. We're not going to have good solutions for CO2 or A2L VRV VRF systems because of the amount of refrigerant that would be inside of the building. And so when we look at what is our solution for managing temperature, especially in heat recovery style scenarios, hydronic is perfect. What if I've got an office next to another commercial building? Say it's a bakery, and the offices need the cooling, and the bakery is producing a bunch of heat. Well, we can move our heat from different places with hydronics so much easier than we can with our current, VRV, VRF style systems. And I'm absolutely a proponent of of a heat recovery style VRV or VRF. But when we move into the hydronic side, we simplify it so much because we're just moving things where we need for them to flow.
Yeah, we're starting to see this a lot. It was done in the past, but water loop systems where, you have a chiller in the system or a cooling tower, et cetera, and you have the boiler plant. You keep the loop at 70 degrees year round, and then you just have heat exchangers to pull in and out and local control. And, as you go up and you have space, it's a lot more efficient to move that water around. And it's actually incredibly simple design of a system. It's very easy. It's not complicated. And like more applications like that require control. I think, we'll talk about a bit more, but a lot of the times this is done on, building automation. Mm-hmm. And what we're trying to see here is, there are those buildings where, look, I can't pay $700 a point to get this thing programmed. I don't want to do that. Where can I get this level of visibility that, I can also see and manage my building properly? So
and scalable.
Yeah. So we talk about that too, is what's the advantage of this type of advanced control solution? So, maintaining the water temperature and the pressures and the flow, that's the key. That's going to operate all your equipment. That's going to be able to maintain and save lifetime on your equipment. Staging the equipment. So, when does that second stage come on? When do we need the third source? And really optimizing that for energy use. The goal of a system for heating is to run the water at the lowest temperature possible, and for cooling to run it at the highest temperature possible. And that's only doable, with this analytics and this visibility on the system. So you can adapt with outdoor reset curve, but now with indoor temperature and sensors throughout the building, you can have indoor feedback. So you can act to actual dynamic, what the building's doing on that specific minute. Right. And that's going to be a lot better control, a lot better comfort for the tenants. Remote access is the big thing, right? Having this digital platform that allows you to control your water and to control your HVAC system and your system remotely, it just gives you a lot more flexible as the contractor in the trades. You're not having a 1 a.m. call because something's down. You can look at it before you have to drive out there. You can maybe even fix it by adjusting the settings online because, this is what it was. You can see that, by the analytics that the digital platform provides, whether it's historical data charts or things of that nature. And you have the ability to create those yourself. So you can say, hey, this is what I'm really looking for to optimize my system. It gives you the transparency on maintenance. It allows you to see things, that, in the past was the superintendent went in, he looked at a boiler and he wrote down a few things on a piece of paper that was on a clipboard in the boiler room. right? Now everybody can see it. You can specialize, you can scale it a lot better. As David was mentioning before, you get those alerts and you can set those alerts for who needs to see them and when. And that's completely customizable because you want it to be as not intrusive as possible. Because I mean, a lot of people probably have things where I get notifications and you just ignore them after a while, right? If we're going to be notifying people
over here, I tried turning
they have
it
to
off.
have high impact, right? And the last thing here is, and on what we're offering with our Watts and tekmar controls and the Nexa platform, is the ability to get all the equipment that's managing water and part of the HVAC and part of the plumbing of the building onto one platform that is, it's not a custom BIS system. It's not a custom program system. It's scalable. You can understand it as a contractor. You can go out and then roll it out with different property managers, different building owners, and then make it a lot easier. And you have your full visibility. I think that's the key thing, because without visibility, you're not going to solve a problem. Right?
Yeah, think about like a lot of these systems are such a big investment that so many properties have thought through so much, right, to get to that decision point. When you invest in such good technology on the equipment side, you would really fall short of what you're trying to get to if you don't also pair that with the best controls and the best software, right? So it's the combination of those three layers that truly gets you to that place where you want to be, right? With ongoing optimization, cost and efficiency control, right? And all that stuff. It is a shame if you stop in that first layer, right? We want to pair that best-in-class equipment with best-in-class controls and best-in-class software platform, and that's where we see the most benefit when you combine those three layers that Douglas is talking about.
I really could have used you guys about 3 or 4 months ago. I had an equipment manufacturer approach me wanting to do a video shoot for one of their newest product, their air-to-water monoblock. And so we sat down at this barn dominium that I have out in the woods, and we did a design, a potential design for it with multiple zones, using radiant heating, using supplementary radiant heating for sidewalk. And we had a variety of different zones. We were going to be using it for domestic heating and cooling as well. And when we got down to the point of the final design, I asked the manufacturer, I said, well, what type of controls are we going to be using for setting this up and creating the different zones? We don't do that. We let the contractor find what components they like to use the most. I'm like, that's not very realistic for a contractor. They're looking for. I have no idea what happened.
All right. Seems like we're back on now, though.
Yeah, we're back on. I sincerely apologize. That actually came through Restream. It, for some reason, killed the entire stream. And so, all right, everyone's joining us. Woo, thank you, everybody, for hanging in there. I wasn't sure if everyone was still. So it must have disconnected us and actually kept the link available. So, all right, as I was saying, to be able for a contractor to find a group of valves, of controls, and ways to be able to manage and monitor in one package, that's a game changer, because we couldn't find one at the time when we were looking.
Yeah, so with the heat pump controls especially, this is relatively new, right? There wasn't much. We, like tekmar, we've had a heat pump control for many, many years. However, it was always only doing a 1-tank, 2-pipe system.
Right.
So it was always because it was meant purely residential. A lot of the stuff was on the West Coast where shoulder season wasn't too bad, and we could run that, and it wasn't a big deal. However, now, the requirement for heating and cooling for bigger spaces, people are building houses, at least in the residential space. The luxury houses are getting bigger. Yeah. Like the 40,000 square foot is now like a mansion, not 10,000 square feet like it has been in the past.
Right.
So the heating and cooling is very important. And that's, where our new control comes in. And as you said, it's like the manufacturer didn't have that at the heat pump. And that's what we see, right? Because everyone is scrambling to get heat pumps. I need a heat pump. I need a heat pump. And, that's where we need to simplify, or what we do at tekmar to simplify the control is that it's a staging control. It will work with everything. Like it will work with geopumps. It will work with heat pumps from Asia, heat pumps from Europe, because they all operate differently. So they have different heat
Right.
cool logic and different reversing valve logic. And that's what we do with our controls to really simplify that installation process. And then also from the design and training point of view, we have our technical support and customer service department that will help you on that design. We'll train you how to use the controls. And that's the important thing for getting this. And it's new to everybody, right? So working through
Exactly.
it together and really looking at it for the people that are in the trades, and especially, I mean, we're talking HVAC, and I know you like skew more HVAC, but plumbing aside, cooling is a big thing, and heat pumps kind of enable that. And so it's good. It's good that everybody here at least is taking the initiative to work on understanding the new technology and doing that, because for us it's too, like tekmar was boiler controls, right? We did heating,
Exactly.
but we have to do heating or cooling now because that's what the market demands.
Yeah. Well, that's so cool, because we looked all over, and everyone, even the engineers for the manufacturer, they give recommendations on different brands and different products, but there was no common solution. So I'm very excited for this. And I have a manufacturer that I will be having reach out. I will promise you that.
That's good to hear.
Well, that's the legacy of our history, right? As a company, when you look at tekmar, the experience in producing those high quality, versatile controls, and then now the trajectory we have at Watts of water related software, right? That's the combination, and that's a perfect transition to this slide here. That's where those worlds are meeting, right? We've got that heat pump, we've got that control, and we've got the ability to watch it real time and do things with it real time. Douglas, I don't know if you want to cover some of the features here that we see on the screen.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's really just it's the real time control. It's a building is a dynamic thing, and water is fluid, right? It is moving around, and to understand that the control is going to handle the real time operation. And from us at tekmar, especially being in the HVAC space, it's 100% about the comfort of the occupant of the building, and that's how we design our controls. So to be able to do that, you want a nice, comfortable, nothing too changing too drastically, and that's where Radiant is really offering you that. And with cooling, I've had the opportunity actually just in this summer for the first time to step into a house that was radiantly cooled, so radiant floor cooled.
Yep.
And it was in the middle of summer here in the Okanagan in Canada. I'm not unfamiliar with the region. It's semi-desert, so it was probably about 103 degrees.
Really?
And it was mostly cooled by the floors. It needed very little second stage from the air handlers, and could have his windows open. It was a beautiful house overlooking the lake on a mountain, and that just passively pulled out so much heat from the building with the radiant cooling. Lowered the energy bills immensely because he didn't need as much electricity to run the fans and the air handlers, etc. And it was just super comfortable. And it's a new thing, and that's only enabled by intelligent controls. Like, we have to be able to measure the humidity point, so we're not making water of the floors, and we have to reset that water temperature to about 3 degrees above the dew point.
Yep.
And that's only possible when we know the data all the time and have an adaptive control like we have. So these new type of applications that are really increasing the comfort, appearing more like luxurious and things like of that nature, are really only allowable because of these advanced controls.
I love it. Yep, that's absolutely where we're going. And I hope everyone heeds the warning. I hope everyone pays attention to what we are doing with refrigerants and technologies, because every residential, light commercial, every HVAC technician that currently works on split system heating and air conditioning will be working on hydronic. If they're not retiring in the next 5 years, they will be installing and working on hydronic systems. That's just how it is. Like, they are on their way. Every manufacturer, anyone that went to HR this year, you would realize every manufacturer has their HFC air to water monoblocks deployed, ready to go. And they anticipate that once we get to that point of phasing HFCs out even further, especially in 2029, we hit that next 30% drop, that, or 29, that we're going to be installing and designing residential systems just like this, because when you know the parameters and you have controls that can manage it for you, it's not a horrible application. I mean, it's a very comfortable application.
Yep.
Hey, glad you're enjoying this, Scott. Makes people think outside of the box, because I hope they do. I don't want us to get to that point and an entire industry go, well, no one told us this was happening. Well, it's happening under your feet right now.
Yeah, and there's like, that adoption curve on new technology as well, right? That we keep seeing again and again now with artificial intelligence and other technologies, right? The question is, where do you want to be on that curve, right? Probably don't want to be always the first one, but you definitely want to be alert on, what are the things that are trending in the industry and how do I get on those things? And smart controls and new software technologies for all of these elements are now, I wouldn't call it yet table stakes, but we're getting there, right? This is here to stay, and this is here to enable a lot of value for the decades to come. And one of the things we see linked to almost every water-related system, like the ones we're discussing today, but it could be really anything, is the notion of risk and risk management. Where there is water, there is risk. Absolutely. And that risk, while it may go unnoticed, it amounts to a lot at the end of the day, at the end of the year, right? Many folks who talk to us about big catastrophic water damage events, they have learned a lesson. And then the question is, how do I prevent the next one, right? How do I prevent having that insurance call, and how do I prevent that long-term damage to my building and my reputation? So related to your heat pump infrastructure, but it could be related to anything else. One of the things we are seeing a lot of momentum around is leak protection. And how do we do that? Through a mix of technologies. Wireless sensors is one way to go. If you're there where the water is present, you can catch it and then you can alert people. But you can also get through it via water usage, like we discussed earlier. I could be measuring the water that's being used in the building in different places, and I can look at anomalies, right, that occur within that water usage, and indirectly understand when there is something that just feels off and that needs to be looked at right away. And so that's one big area of focus for us, pairing all of these technologies, including smart controls, with leak protection solutions, with the best of the technologies and the best of the solutions that we have. And that's where Nexa also plays a role. All of these things come together, whether it's metering, sub-metering on the water usage side, whether it's leak protection, or whether it's these smart controls, all of them coming together into one place. And then we've got a team of experts sitting all across North America who have decades-long experience in the industry, like Douglas and many others, right, who are a phone call away, where we can partner with those customers to understand those needs and how we can troubleshoot things as they arise, right? So that's a combination of technology, visibility, human expertise. While AI is the big thing, it's still not replacing fully a lot of that knowledge and a lot of that capability. And so we as a company are proud to offer that capability that's really hard to replicate, right, in this market.
Wow.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah, so if that piqued your interest in different ways, I recommend checking out our website, nexaplatform.com. It really has a lot in there around use cases and examples, case studies. You can see different videos in different settings, from luxury hotels to multifamily residences all across the country, different use cases. And the one cross theme that we see in common across all these applications is that return on investment, right? By deploying some of these technologies, it is rare the occasion that within the first 3 months, 6 months, we don't catch some of the events that end up justifying the cost of the investment many times over, right? So that's the beauty of water and the challenge of water, that events may not happen every day, but when they happen every month, every year, whatever it is, the amount of impact is quite big, right? Whether it's in efficiency gains or savings, whether it's in water damage, whether it's in high water utility bills, all of that has an impact that compounds over time. Douglas was mentioning some examples of part of a building that has, too high temperature, too low temperature. How many of those things go unnoticed for weeks, days, months, sometimes, right, over time? And what does that amount to? That's where we see a lot of that value being unlocked, and typically equating to thousands of dollars, right, in annual savings. And that's what makes us the happiest, because we can help tackle those dollars together with those customers. So I encourage you to check our site and reach out as well if we can be of any assistance with any of these systems that we're talking about today.
Also had another link in the chat for anyone that wants a direct link for learning more. Let me see if I can overlay that without putting it. All right. Anyhow, it is in the chat earlier on in the conversation. You'll see that highlighted there for the watts.com. It's a direct link for you.
Yeah, I think, as we're starting to wrap up here, it's just really to drive home, why does visibility and control of the system matters? And it's just, you can't change something you can't see. And if we're going to move and we're going to provide excellent service to our customer or to the end user and excellent comfort, whether that user is only looking for comfort, whether they're looking to reduce costs of energy, whether they're just looking to be greener and reduce carbon, because that's also a goal too, right? Is if you can see it, you can change it.
Absolutely.
Our controls have all sorts of features that allow you to have some flexibility, whether it's occupancy, non-occupancy schedule. The heat pump control has a schedule on time of use. So if your jurisdiction has implemented time of use electricity rates, we can also start to optimize some of the charging of the tanks by time of use, right, where it's cheaper at night over the day. And generally the performance of the system, that's what's going to give you everything. And in order to tweak it and to make changes, you need to see what's happening. So that's the important thing.
I'm not sure if it's happened anywhere in the United States yet, but I see it happening. As the cost of utilities increase, we always see changes in pricing structure. Take the kilowatt. The kilowatt was one of those energies that always had a consistent cost to it. Now you can go to places like California that has 5 different prices for that kilowatt per day. And as we start seeing areas that are not having the supply of water that they used to, I could see having, increases in cost at different time frames during the day, even for our water. We just came back from Las Vegas, and every person that I talked to, every Uber driver that I was with, their number one concern was their supply of water and how much it's going to cost going forward, because their cost of water is already skyrocketing. So having a system where you can manage that and be able to monitor it and control it and be able to utilize those lower cost time periods, it has to provide savings.
Yeah, it really does. So just to wrap up, I don't know if we're going to get some questions from the audience. Would love to hear, if the audience has any reactions, any part of what we've presented that triggers your interest, any experiences you've had, would love to hear about that. But just, as we look to wrap this up, the direction for the industry, the direction for the technology going forward is pretty clear. We're moving towards these more predictive systems where anomalies and risk is identified before the failure hits, right? And when the opportunity of that efficiency savings potential is captured earlier versus later. And so we are running into this more tighter integration from the heat pumps, the technology, the product, to the controls, to the software and that visibility. And that allows us to stop making assumptions and like the system should operate this way, and start making things a bit more dynamic, right? And responsive to the environment, responsive to the users, the setting, what's happening in the building. So that's how we hope and we believe we're going to help customers, users advance to tackling those big problems, right? And those big challenges, and to operating more efficient buildings. So we're excited about it and hope, that the audience also has gotten something away from it.
Yeah, same here. And obviously they do. There's quite a few people still hanging in. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, now's a great time. I know many of you are in the HVAC and refrigeration industry, and hydronics may not have been a focus, but right here in Indiana, I've been to some of my local colleges that have hydronic training in the classroom for areas that I didn't anticipate seeing hydronic training because of the growth of it in their light commercial applications. So it is an evolving component within our industry. And I hope that if y'all have any questions that we didn't cover, if you would like to learn more, make sure to follow up with David and Douglas. Here's some information for contacting them. And I encourage everyone to take advantage of that.
Yeah, well, if while we wait to see if there are any questions, the one channel that you can get a bit more information, other than the websites that you see here listed and that Clifton tagged earlier, the LinkedIn page we have, Nexa platform, has a lot of announcements on different webinars that we do on different technologies, different areas. So I encourage you all to follow that LinkedIn page and stay alert for different sessions to learn more about what we do. So we got a nice comment from Tom as well.
Yeah, you're right, Tom. There's a lot of boilers in that Northeast that are really looking at what their options are. And heat pumps really are going to be that. We're going to see a lot of our older existing infrastructure that relied on chillers for cooling and boilers for heating, rethinking their entire design. And on many of these applications, you can't just pull out the plumbing and replace it. You have to be creative and repurpose what you have, and then have the controls that can manage it, especially when we start talking about things in any type of a cooling scenario. So lots of changes up there. Well, gentlemen, hopefully we'll have some people reaching out to you to learn more and to get a little bit more education, content, and curriculum for the classrooms. And I appreciate you hanging out with me. It's definitely an intriguing topic for me. I love knowing what's happening in all of the different areas of our industries. And this is one that's going to be progressing pretty quickly, I believe.
Thanks for having us. This has been great.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again next week on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. Everybody have a good evening. Bye, everyone.
Hey guys.